The Wisconsin primary is shaping up to be one of the most important campaign stops of the presidential campaign. The standalone state, whose voters go to the polls on April the 5th, has 42 delegates up for grabs. And the gap between the Wisconsin primary and the next contest in New York puts its voters in a pretty unique position to shift the trajectory of the race. For Ted Cruz, the state is crucial. A win there could potentially stop Donald Trump from reaching that all-important delegate count of 1,237. For John Kasich, it's make or break as the Ohio governor struggles to keep his campaign alive. Joining us now with the very latest on how this race could play out, MSNBC political analyst Ben Ginsberg and WTMJ political reporter and anchor Charles Benson. Gentlemen, good to have you with me. Charles, let me start with you because this is your state. You know it well. John Kasich is trailing this important state. Could Wisconsin really turn it around for him, though, if he's able to shoot up the middle between the infighting of Ted Cruz and Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's the narrative that they want to come out of Wisconsin. You know, a lot of people this morning focusing on their final four. I think people in Wisconsin focusing on the final five, the 3 Republicans, the 2 Democrats. On the Republican side, it is going to be interesting. You mentioned John Kasich. He said last week here in Wisconsin, if he drops out, Donald Trump will be the nominee. But just within the last hour, Thomas, we have learned and confirmed that the Kasich campaign is sort of reallocating resources here in the state. They're going off the air in Milwaukee TV market on radio and TV and shifting to sort of the outstate area. So that's where they think their strength is. Donald Trump is yet to be on the ground. He will be here Tuesday in Janesville. Ted Cruz has already been here, and the polls suggest that it's going to be a battle between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. We're waiting for the gold standard in polls out here, the Marquette Law School poll. That comes out on Wednesday.
Okay, so Ben, you heard what Charles had to say about Kasich and the campaign strategy. Is that a red flag to you about a worried campaign for what Wisconsin means?
Well, I think it's a realistic assessment. I think both Kasich campaign and the Cruz campaign recognize that this is not about them winning the nomination, because they're not. It is about depriving Donald Trump of enough delegates to reach 1237 majority. And so it's a divide and conquer strategy. There are certain areas of the state where John Kasich may be able to take one of the congressional districts, and Ted Cruz will probably be stronger in the Fox River Valley, the suburban Milwaukee districts, the rural districts outside Madison, that'll determine the statewide winner and all the at-large delegates.
Okay, so we have over a week to go, Charles. So Governor Walker, is he expected to endorse?
He says he's going to endorse. He sounds a lot like he likes Ted Cruz, but he also says he's a friend of John Kasich. So we're waiting to see where he decides on where he'll put his endorsement behind. Keep in mind, Donald Trump tomorrow will be here in 2 interesting areas. He's going to Paul Ryan's home turf of Janesville, and that is an area of, you know, big labor and a lot of concerns there about jobs, unions, trade policy. Then he's going up to Green Bay on Wednesday, another big area concerned with jobs and trade. So he's going to areas where he thinks he can hold his strength. But when you look at the state of Wisconsin, we are very conservative when it comes. We have a conservative governor, a conservative legislature, a conservative high court. So you would think that this state would be made for a guy like John Kasich and Ted Cruz.
Ben, let me ask you about this. We had earlier today Ari Melber talking to senior advisor Barry Bennett for Donald Trump's campaign, and he talked about the RNC rules, how they now could affect the previous delegate counts. Here's what he had to say about the impact that Alaska is having now that Rubio's out of the race.
Rule 40B, the RNC rules, says that you have to win a majority of the delegates in 8 states to be nominated. Cruz, before the Rubio delegates were reallocated, had won a majority of the delegates. But after they were reallocated, we got 2, he got 1. It's now a tie. So it's no longer a Rule 40B victory. So it takes 1 off the board. I think he's down to 3 or 4 now.
If Donald Trump doesn't clinch a majority of delegates, are you saying, with reference to Alaska and some of these other states, that Cruz should not be on the ballot in Cleveland?
If he doesn't win the majority of delegates in 8 states, the rules of the Republican National Committee prohibit him from even being nominated.
So, Ben, what do you make of that, and also the fact that Donald Trump is threatening to sue Louisiana over its delegate proportional allocation?
Well, the rule that Barry is citing was the rule that was passed by the 2012 convention for the 2012 convention. They don't carry over to 2016 in the sense that the 2016 convention will have to pass its own rules, including the number of states that it takes. I think that there is a lot of Supreme Court precedents that allows political parties to choose their nomination process, and the nomination process for this time allows what Ted Cruz did in Louisiana. That's not to say that Donald Trump might not have a credentials challenge against those delegates at the convention if he can win enough delegates in the states to actually control the credentials committee.
All right, so 1237, the magic number. Ben Ginsburg, Charles Benson, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We've been asking all of you to weigh in on today's Pulse question. The question being our spouse's fair game. And so far, here's what you've been saying at pulse.msnbc.com. 61% say yes, they're fair game in presidential politics. 39% say no. The Pulse remains live. Go check it out.